Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and I'm very, very excited today for the topic that we have, which we will be discussing with life and mental well-being coach Dr. Nitin Saraswat ji, relates to relationship and right rhythm in relations is the theme that we will be discussing. Namaste, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, let us start from the start. A child is born and he starts observing how he is treated, and he responds to somebody smiling, giggling, giggling, etc. From that moment onwards, the human conscious unconscious training of understanding and appreciating relationship starts. You want to say something? What happens in that particular, let's say, first 3 or 5 years of the period for a child, in terms of his awareness about how he is to relate with others?
I would thank you, Ashokji, for picking such a wonderful topic. And I really like the rhythm of the topic that the name of, that you have chosen.
Thank you.
And relationship is all about rhythm. It's not nothing but rhythm. So I would like to take it a step back and not even when the child is born, even before a child is born, it is about a relationship. And now even the psychology recognizes it that if a child is born as a planned child and a child is born as an accidental child, there is an iota at least different in the psyche of the personality and the personality. So it's all about relationship. Like it's the relationship we have with the nature. It's the relationship we have with our circumstances, with our society, everything. So everything. If you sum up the whole world in one word, that is relationship.
So let me sort of go a little parallel track and request you to share your take on what is it that makes one person compassionate and sensitive human being, another person a little bit callous or insensitive, inconsiderate person. Does that also stem from their childhood, their upbringing, or how do you look at it?
There are n number of factors, but yes, of course, one of the factors and one of the major factors is the kind of upbringing a child is getting. One factor which even the science or the psychology can never explain is how we react to the first instance. For example, somebody was compared. If somebody was compared, the same person, people compared in the same situation, one can become a very rebellious child and another can become a very submissive child. It depends upon how the first reaction comes. And now, where the first reaction comes, we can say it is about the genes, what kind of genes were dominating the personality, or it is something that science or psychology cannot say much about. So it's all about how you react to the first stimuli, the very first stimuli in your life. But yes, majority of these stimuli come from your childhood. So we can always say that the kind of parents you have, the kind of environment you have, and the kind of parenting you have will play a huge role on your personality.
So now we fast forward, and this is only for the parents to pay attention. But let us look at, you are grown up, and we talk about love so much. We talk about this Valentine Day. Then we have most of the movies where the central theme is romance, and we have been through various stories and novels about n number of permutation combinations of the way two um, people relate to each other when they are in love, or so-called love, or real love, whatever. Now, when we talk about right rhythm, let us proceed from the point of view of a couple and they meet, they like something in each other, and they say that "pehla pehli nazar mein pyar hua" वगैरह. How do you see that idea where there is instant love? Is that practical?
Who we are to say it's not practical? But the point is, if you really, if someone wants to understand love, we need to understand that there are things that can be anything but love, like the physical attraction. It can be anything but love. The kind of security we find in each other, or the way we use each other to quell each other's insecurity, that can be anything but love. So what is love in general definition? So it is the bond that two people find, the kind of congeniality that two people find automatically or they create. So if two people can say that, yes, we have that congeniality, we have that ease, or in the easiest of the definition, I would say zero conflict zone is love. So if you can create a zero conflict zone, then it is love. And if these two people can say we can instantly create that, well, highly unlikely. But if you say you can create that, I will say good luck. You are in love.
So I would ask in the spirit of trying to understand. I think what you just said, no conflict zone, I think it is non existent because human beings are different and they may ignore certain aspects because they are paying attention, or sometimes you call it infatuation or whatever. But gradually it will come, it will come back. So that no conflict zone, even if it is there, it will be temporary. It won't, it is not sustainable. Having said that, you come to this also, but talk to me about why conflicts and why conflict with anybody at all. Why not love everywhere from that point of view? And then it becomes a different kind of love. What we are saying is like mutual, intense bond. Yeah.
So the whole concept is that love, the first condition for love is surrender and acceptance. And it is contrary to the idea of rights, and it is contrary to the idea of uh, I want my individual identity not to be diluted. So, as the beautiful chant from Kabir or Rahim is that प्रेम गली अति साकरी वा में दो न समाए जब मैं था तब हरी नहीं अब हरी है मैं नाही. So it's about, you know, letting go of your ego, letting go of your identity to become one. And that is why I say being in a conflict free zone. But we human, we are weak and we need our rights. We are very scared that we will be dominated. We are very scared that somebody will take away what is ours, or we want more out of life. And this more, better, bigger, the problem of bigger, better, more, that is where the conflict starts. And
So
the
now
love
this,
becomes the puppy love.
so let's go back to the term right rhythm. And when we say right rhythm, meaning you should be in a position to understand, like you have the harmony in musical notes also. There is give and take of some kind. What is the ideal degree where one would automatically discover that here is the time to give, and here if I don't get, still I should continue to give, or whatever. uh, I'll rephrase. I hear that from many young girls also, and especially from girls sometimes, that if you keep on being in the understanding mode, you are going to be trampled upon, which means what about me, etc. So how do you look at it?
Then we are not talking about being in love. We're talking about being in an arrangement. It's like a corporate arrangement. It's like a social arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So when you are in a social arrangement, you are always worried about, oh my God, what this if what if this arrangement takes away something from me? So you're always talking about your rights. You're always talking about my point of view needs to be heard, etc., etc., etc. So in the real world, let's make a graph. So this is a graph of me being a human, not being capable of total surrender. And this is the graph of me being a lover, where the surrender and acceptance becomes the real world. And let's see if we can meet in between. And that's why I always tell people that fighting in a relationship is never a bad thing if you fight it right. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to know how to fight, not to hurt each other, but to make each other understand. Like, the whole point of view of you having a fight in a relationship is to understand another person's point of view and to make person understand your point of view, and then ability to let go of your stand and meet the person midway. Even that can be graphically being in love.
Beautiful. And let me go to the basic purpose for which two individuals come together as per the marriage ceremony that we have from Indian cultural point of view. So you are joining together to help and bring out the best in each other. That idea is very much close to the idea of love. So you give enough space for the other person to grow. Now, when we look at right rhythm, let us look at the positive side of it. If you have found the right rhythm, how it helps you in soaring and realizing your full potential and sort of embracing life in its entirety. Uh,
The first thing about the marriage is it gives you one kind of a surety that this union is going to be there. So that security, that surety can make people act differently. If they take this security in the right spirit, then they can be less possessive with each other. They can allow each other a lot more space, a lot more, you know, feeling of, oh my God, I may be left alone, I may not be heard. That can take a back seat. And it's like becoming a team, and a team that has each other's back. So the point is to create that synergy. Actually, being married or being in a relationship for a couple is to start from zero. What kind of a rapport you build with each other? Unfortunately, 90% of the relationships take rapport for granted. They do not work on their rapport. They do not work on, okay, let's talk about our differences. Let's meet our differences in the midway, or at least let's agree to disagree on certain things. Let's accept each other. Okay, this person is never going to accept my point of view on this particular thing, allowing each other with their differences. But the main point is to work on the rapport in a relationship, and more than that, to make sure that both of you, the people in the relationship, always feel heard. The biggest problem in a relationship, be it a husband wife relationship, boyfriend girlfriend relationship, or a father son relationship, or a daughter mother relationship, or vice versa, 90% of the problem with the people is that they start feeling that they are not heard. They start feeling that the people they are living with do not value what they feel. Can we make each other feel that I value how you feel? Even if I don't agree with you, but I value how you feel. I value what you think. I don't agree with you, but I value what you think. I don't like your style of living, but I value that you have a style of living and I value you as an individual. I may disagree with everything that you do, but I value you. I value your presence. And the biggest problem in a relationship arises when the person starts feeling that the person is not valued, their presence is not valued. Then the indifference start coming. Fighting in a relationship, I don't think it's a big problem. When you start becoming indifferent to each other, that is the death of a relationship. And that is where we should be very, very alert.
So now, when I'm listening to you and I'm trying to process the ideas that you are sharing with us, which are coming from your experience of having interacted as well as read and contemplated, so let me seek your input on the challenges that people face because they are not able to communicate properly. As you said, uh, whether you agree or disagree, you give the feeling that you value the way the other person have with all the disagreement. That is, I think, a very tricky sort of a part because many people fail in conveying that. So, are there any special call that ways which may help someone in being a better communicator as far as this sensitive side of relationship is concerned?
I think as a community, the human community, we have never valued the importance of communication. Even as a counselor, when I talk to people, I've never seen someone say, "Hey, I have a problem with my communication." 90% of the people take communication for granted. And most of us do not know that we are very bad at communicating love. 99% of Asians are incapable of communicating love without being physical. Like, we can be very
I,
touchy.
I
We
need to
can,
object to that, man. This is such a big number that you have thrown. 99% means only 1% knows. And then those 1%, there'll be some film stars who will claim that, oh, I know because I have so many romantic songs to my credit. So I don't know, but except my disagreement on the percentage, still continue where you are leading us.
okay, whatever percentage you want to put, I don't have a problem with that
Okay.
because I don't have a data to prove that the percentage I'm saying is
Absolutely.
correct. That's my assumption. So, my point is, if you ask 10 people you know, can they, the way they act, the way they communicate with their partners, A, is it communicated that their partners are valued? B, respected? C, heard? And D, even after an argument or after a conflict, they can still feel the same warmth in the relationship, then I will agree that yes, you know how to communicate love. Because love is not just hugging someone. And most of us, after a certain time, even stop doing that. You have to remind, like in my counseling, I have to remind people. I ask them, what was the last time, especially in Asia, what was the last time you hugged someone without a reason? And couples in India, especially Asia rather, after their 40s, they almost forget that it is good, mandatory to hug each other. It is mandatory. It is very healthy to hold hands. But I want to take it a step further. I'm saying, can you communicate love without even a touch, without even having to say, I love you? Then you are a good communicator. And that is really an art.
So I'm kind of now very, very like a child, though I don't see myself in that role. But how that happens, how that happens that you don't utter a word and then love is communicated, that is the tricky part.
Just observe a mother and you will get to know how easy it is to communicate love without saying I love you or without having to touch. It's very simple. Doing very small gestures and favors to each other that make each other's life easy. And then having those looks that tell that you enjoyed doing it, like a mother does. If a mother serves you food, it's the eyes of the mother that speak volumes, that you ate and she felt happy. He doesn't have to say anything. It's so genuine, it's so pure, it permeates. It is in the air and anybody can smell it.
Yeah.
Like
I think continue, continue.
you entered and your dog, the kind of smile you can read on your dog's face, the kind of body language your dog shows. People, they understand love as importance, how much attention you give them, how much care you give them, how much time you give them, and how much quality time you give them. So if you start doing that, you don't have to say I love you often.
So now the because we are talking about a right rhythm. So when you do all that what you mentioned, then you will have in your subconscious a little bit of expectation of being acknowledged or being reciprocated. How you look at that? That sometimes results into increased sense of unhappiness in
Frustration.
one person who is giving. Yeah,
True. And that is where I'm saying fight it right comes. That if your expectations, it is never wrong to have expectations. It is wrong to have an expectation and start feeling it that it is my right that my expectation has to be fulfilled. You can have an expectation, but an expectation is like an application you provide to someone. The person may approve of it, the person may not approve of it. So you can have an expectation, it's okay. B, convey that expectation like an expectation, not as an accusation. And be absolutely ready, fine, if that expectation is not met. But as far as relationships are concerned, believe me, if you are not, if a for a relationship to be successful, what people do not understand, it is must to have a higher self-esteem in yourself. People with low self-esteem often end up being in bad relationships because they do things to please others. You don't have to do something to please others. You have to do things in relationship to please yourself. That's the basic difference. So when you do things because that makes you happy, even your expectation levels come a little bit down. And then the right rhythm, as you have said in your title, it starts coming in the synergy starts coming in the relationship.
wonderful. I think right rhythm and the last reference of self-esteem. So you need to work on finding yourself also parallel to having the right rhythm, and I think both good together somewhere. um, so it was a wonderful and enlightening conversation, and I appreciate you sharing such words of wisdom backed in deep thinking, contemplation, as well as practical application. So thank you very much, Dr. Nitin
Thank
Saraswatji,
you. Thank you.
for joining us. And I wish each and every one of you,
The right
including
rhythm
us,
of relationship.
to find the right rhythm of relationship. That will help in making this
Thank you.
world a beautiful place also. So
Thank you.
thanks. Namaste.